Welcome back to my channel. To get the fuel tank out, 4 bolts on either side, take out. The little Phillips head bolt that's there, you don't have to take that out. That's connected to back here. And then that just comes off. Now I'll undo the bonnet stay. Now we're on the other side. And this side's got that Phillips head bolt. It's missing. Doesn't really make any difference. All it does is keeps them 2 pieces together, and them 2 bolts hold them 2 pieces together anyway. Now just lift it off. Now I'm going to turn the fuel tap off. One here and one on the other side. And there's 2 bolts at the back. While I'm on this side, I'll undo this one. Now, as you undo these, you need to pull down a little bit because there's a spot that locks into the fuel tank. If you push up, it comes out of that and the bolt will turn. And you'll be trying to get it out all day. Set the washer and a spring. This is the other side. It's a little more complicated to get to. It's up under here, behind the air intake manifold. Make sure you remember to pull down a little bit on that bolt so it doesn't slip up in the fuel tank bracket anyway. Now I'm going to undo these. But before you start undoing these, either disconnect the battery or get one of these things, because when you isolated terminal, that's what it's called. When you're undoing this, if you bump the battery, you can get an arc, and you don't really want that to happen. So, using a 7/16 for these. Now this is full of diesel. It's just an empty cylinder, so there is a little bit of diesel in there. Yes, it's just leaking a little bit of diesel out of there. And there goes that diesel. The 2 bolts on the back of the fuel tank. Gotta get that out of the way before I lose it. One holds the reservoir and the other one is on the other side. They're both on the back of the fuel tank. These have been stripped out. They were stripped out before I got it, so I had to put a nut underneath. Again, watch these battery terminals while you're doing this. There's that. Now we're on the back bolt on the opposite side, which is there. It has got a little bit of diesel left in it. Fuel tap's turned off, but even though it's off, it does leak a little bit. So put these wooden chocks under here. Try and make the diesel run to the other side while I undo the fuel line. This is a 1/2 inch. Now that should be right just to lift off. Being careful not to get caught on the bolts at the front or lose them. Now, when I got this, it had little rubber washers on the tops there, and they were rotten and cracked and they fell apart. So I got these bits of pipe. Well, I've got some pipe and I cut it open to make little cushions for the fuel tank to sit on. Just to try and stop it wearing. Because you can see how that one's worn in there. You'll probably find the rubber was so rotten that it wasn't even doing anything. So the tank is worn into that. Well, I've got the fuel tank out. I thought I'd take the fuel tap out to check the filter that's inside, and luckily I did. That's pretty clogged up. Before putting the fuel tank on, it's a bit easier to put the fuel tap in while the tank is off. So I'm going to use a little bit of plumber's tape on the thread. Just to try and get a bit of a better seal. That should be tight enough. They're in. That goes on the back. Now I don't want to tighten this down yet until I get these pipes into position. The one that goes on top. Now I had to undo the reservoir to lift it up a little bit to line it up with that pipe. Otherwise I was going to end up cross-threading it. So I'll put that back in there. That one started on there. So that bottom one goes to the air intake, and this top one goes across to the other side, joins up with the injectors. Okay, so they're all sitting where they need to be. I'm not tightening these yet. Okay, so that's all loose, and I'll tighten it down once I tighten the bolt down that holds it in position. And because these are stripped, they've got a nut for the other end. Okay, it's tight enough. Now remember, these are brass. They're all tight. Front bolts. This side is right up under there. So spring and then a washer. Try and get both of them on at the same time, just so I don't drop the spring. And the nut. If you push up on this bolt too much, it will just spin and you won't get that nut on. You can sort of see it through on top of the air intake manifold. Okay, I tightened that up, then backed it off a little bit because it is a spring. The other side's a lot easier to get to. It's right there. Right, spring and washer. The nut. Back it off a bit. Now I'm going to put the fuel line back on. That'll be tight enough. I'm going to put the bonnet on. Now I'm on the other side. I will put the bonnet to stay on. Hold that bolt while I put the nut on. That's a little bit too loose. Fine there. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.